Okay, this is our 157, and we're going to look at how to make custom weapons in this demo. We're going to use 3D Max, but you could use other programs for this. Some stuff might be slightly different, but we'll go over its basics. So our weapon is going to be real simple. We're just going to use a pre-made teapot. So we're going to choose that primitive and drag it out. And first thing we want to do, or two things we want to do, is we want to change the radius to 12. That's just going to be a scale that works. And we're also going to rotate this once it's made. And the easiest way to rotate it is we can do a snap and a rotate. I can rotate it 90 degrees, so it's shooting up the y-axis. Now, if you're gonna, we're only gonna make one weapon, but usually what people do is they make a high-res weapon for the first person and a low-res for the third person. This is actually the axis for the third-person weapon. The first-person weapon actually goes along X, so just be aware of that, and I'll show you some ways that you can modify that. Okay, so we have that. Next thing we need to do is we need to assign a material to it. We want to do two things. Right now this doesn't have what's called explicit UV mapping, so we want to change that. And the easiest way to do that is just to add a modifier that's a unwrap UVW, and you can go in and you can change that, but we basically want to make sure that we have that, so we have the explicit mapping set up. And with the material editor, um, we're going to come in and add right here to the diffuse channel. We're going to add a bitmap, and then we're just going to go cancel, and that'll create an empty bitmap which we can use. And just to make sure that I know that this is assigned, let's change the color. Blue. Okay, there we go. Now I'll drag that onto the teapot, and now we have the teapot good to go with that material. So the next thing we have to do is, right now at this point it's a static object, so the next thing we need to do is we need to actually add bones, and there's only two basic bones. If you want a more complicated weapon, you would use all your animation, everything are based on moving and rotating bones. So we're just going to do a very simple system, bones IK. First place we want to click with the left mouse button is the handle, because that's where the player is going to hold it. And then click the left mouse button again, and then click the right mouse button. So we basically have two bones. Now at this point I can't do anything to edit it, so if I wanted to change the position, if I go into animation, there's an option called Bones Tools. Do Bone Edit Mode, and I can come in here and get this properly positioned. And also, if you look at the rotation or the orientation of this bone right now, it's not straight. And basically we want it, this is where the firing is going to take place. So now we can rename this. So this one, they both have pretty basic names, but we want to use these because we're going to be using scripts to create this, the final weapon, and we want to make sure that we have the proper names. So we're basically using names that are conventional for all the weapons that exist inside Unreal. So the weapon bone is basically, the origin of that is where the character is going to pick up, and then the flash bone is basically the origin for the bullets or whatever's firing in the animation. We need to attach the entire weapon, and you can do this differently depending on the animation, but we're going to attach the entire weapon, because right now if I go to move this bone, you'll see that nothing goes along for the ride. So I'm going to add a skin modifier to the teapot, and let's go find the skin modifier, and we're going to add a bone, and we're going to add the weapon bone, and hit select. And now if we go and we grab the weapon bone, the whole thing goes along for the ride. And the reason why you want to do that is now the geometry is actually attached to the bone. The vertices are assigned to it, and you'll be able to animate. The other thing we want to do is we want to change this. Right now the bone is the center of the world, and we have this offset. So we're going to go in and with the bone selected, right click, and you can see we're going to change this position to 0, 0, and 0. And now what it does is it centers that, so when we import it, the origin is actually at the right place. If not, you can have some issues with that. Next thing we want to do is we want to animate this, and I'll just maximize this viewport because we don't need to do anywhere else. So we're just going to, oh, just accidentally shifted that. So we're going to create four animations. Technically, there's supposed to be five, but one we're going to copy. So we're going to turn on auto key, which enables us to animate. We got the bone selected because that's what we animate. And we're going to move the scrubber to 10, and then we're going to rotate the teapot up. And then we're going to go to, we're going to take the first key, and we're going to hold down the shift key and copy it to 20. Now you see if we animate, we get this going up and down. So this 0 to 20 is our fire, and we're also going to make it alt fire. And obviously you can do much. I'm just doing a basic kickback that's taking place with the animation. So from 20 to 30, we're going to put the weapon down. So let's go to 30. And I'm going to zoom out because we want to do two things. One thing you want to do is you want to turn the weapon down, but the other thing you need to do is actually imagine that we're holstering it, so you actually want to move it down and out. And the one issue we're going to run into that you can see is this added a key. It's going to move it over the entire time. So what we want to do is we want to take this, there's a couple different ways you can do it, but we can switch these two keys because remember they're the same position. So if I go to this key, it's up, and that one's the physical position, and what we need to do is just reverse these. So I'll take this one, bring it over here, this one, bring it over here. So now that's the beginning, green goes up, down, and then 20, because the red on the tick, it's kind of hard to see, but the red means position, and green means rotation. Now at this point we have the weapon going down on 30, and what we want to do is we want to bring the weapon back up. So we're going to copy the weapon up from 20, hold down shift and move that to 60, and now this is loading the weapon. And you can do things like you could come in here and have a little bit of a kick, so when it comes up it actually gets pulled up and then it kind of centers, so it kind of pops up and goes. So obviously you can do a lot of different things with this. And then we want to do weapon idle, which is to 65, and we can literally just take this key and hold down the shift key and go to copy it and 65, and now basically the weapon stays still from 60 to 65. So just to reiterate, 0, we fire it up to 10, and then to 20, and at this point we have the position, which is red, and the rotation, and then we rotate it down, change the position, we bring it up, that's a kick, and then it goes back to the up position, which is basically copying 20, and then 65, you can either copy 20 or you can copy 0 just to make sure, because that's basically the end. So those are all the basic things we need to do to set it up. And now the next trick is basically saving everything to get it to work. So we'll just save this as a basic file. Save as. I'm just going to plunk this all on the desktop and create a custom folder. Teapot demo. And then inside that we'll place the other items. So now this is just going to be the basic file. So this is a max file. This isn't what you're going to bring into Unreal. What we need to do to Unreal is we actually need to bring in the file, and using the old format was easy because you could do what's called baking the animations, and you give each one a name. Now you have to save each animation separately and bring them all in together, which is a little annoying, but that's just how it goes. So we're going to go up to export, and export selected, so make sure you have all the bones and everything selected, and let's do a new folder, Teapot demo, and the first one we're going to do, these are all FBXs, which is Autodesk Universal File Format, is we're just going to call this teapot underscore mesh and FBX, hit save, and you can basically use all, well these are my defined settings, so I have smoothing groups on, tangents and binormals, triangulate preserve edges, and make sure that you got animation on as well, even though they're going to actually be imported separately. So okay, and now what we do is that the actual skeleton mesh object with the bones that we're going to bring in. Now we're ready to do the animations. So we will go in, and remember 20 is firing, So now we have basically just the chute, so I got rid of everything else. And now we're going to do export selected. And this one we are going to basically use the name of the actual animation, fire, and this is called in the script for all the weapons. So this is weapon fire, hit save, hit OK, and now we'll undo, and we will get rid of weapon fire, and we will get rid of weapon up, and now we just have weapon down. So we'll take this and move this to 0 because this is basically saying this is the animation. And we're going to export selected, and we're going to call this weapon down, weapon put down, and hit save, and hit OK. And then we've got to do this 2 more times. I'm just flipping the pages to make sure I get all the names right. If you don't get the names right, then it becomes a nightmare with the scripting. So now we want to do the weapon up. So that's 30 to 60. Let's go to 65. Border select all of those. Move that to the beginning. And let's just scrub through. Yep. So it's going up. Export selected. And we want to go. Okay. So weapon put up. This is weapon equip. Let's save. Okay. And then the last one we want to do is we want to do idle. And all we're going to do with that is simply we're just going to take these two and yeah, let me redo that. Okay, that's what we want. We basically want 60 to 65 because that's just the gun not moving at all. Usually they bob it or do something, so it's up to you how you want to do that. But we'll do that. Export selected, and this is called weapon idle, and hit save. Okay, and now we're done with 3D Max, so we can basically just close out Max. I already saved the file, so I don't need it. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into Unreal, and the beginning stuff is basically we don't need to worry about the scene much. We're going to go to Import, and I need to go up to the desktop and go Teapot Demo and bring in the mesh. And now the package name is pretty critical because all the scripts have a format. So you need to call it WP, which stands for weapon underscore. I use my teapot, but you can call it teapot, whatever. The grouping is mesh, and then the actual geometry itself needs to be named SK, which is for skeletal mesh underscore WP for my weapon, my teapot. So you'll see a lot of basically abbreviations like that will be used throughout. So we hit OK, and now it's going to open up, and you can see we got the teapot, we got it all set. It's got a default material it's assigning, and what we can do is open up skeletal mesh editor. Just make sure I have it open. So okay, so there's a skeletal mesh, and it has a default material it created when it imported. If we go into, let's go into environment and find a material. Environment materials. Let's see, 2, 3 materials. See if we can just find a simple metal or something basic just to use. Oh, come on. Okay. I have no idea what that's going to look like, but let's just grab that for the time being. Obviously, you can do whatever, but you go into material, assign it, give it a sec, and now you can see it's assigned. And you kind of have some steampunky type looking teapot. So we can close that out, go back to the content browser, and go find our package, select it, and then do a save. And where do I want to save this? I'm going to save this in my custom folder, and once again make sure your package is properly named, so it's going to be WP, my teapot, hit save. And now let's turn that all off and go back and go up to custom, and you can see there's our teapot with our different items. Okay, so let's see, what do we want to do next? Now we're ready to bring in the animation sets. So we're going to open up a skeleton, we're going to right click, and we're going to create a new animation set. And this is for my teapot, and this is what you collect all your animations with. So the group for this is ANIM for animation, and then it's K for, they use that for just animation symbol, might mean kinematics. There also used to be an older file format that they generated some of these names with, so it might be based on that as well. So we'll go okay, K, WP, okay. And now we're going to open up the editor, and a couple things we'll see is, now this is the same interface, because what you do is you load up the skeleton meshes and you assign the animations and those types of things. If I go to skeleton mesh and choose the drop down menu, and we go and we look, there's SKWP teapot. So now we've loaded our teapot, and we can see that. And now we want to go to the animation tab, and you can see that we have the KWP my teapot, and it's at 0 at this point. So this is where we import the animation sequences. So we'll do File, Import FBX Animation, and we'll go to Desktop and the demo, and we will grab each of these. So we'll start with the fire. Now we have the fire, and if I hit play, you can see now the teapot animates with that. File, Import FBX. Let's see, put down. File, import FBX equip, and file, import FBX idle. And now the one that we're missing is there's an alternate fire. So just for this, we're just gonna just simply let's see, we need to copy sequence, and we'll call this weapon alt fire, and get that set up. Okay. So there's our sequences, and now the script will have something to call and work with. Next thing we need to do is we need to add the socket, which is the point where the will actually fire from. And in order to do that, we want to do a couple things. We want to turn on sockets so we can see them. We haven't created one yet. Also helpful to see a skeleton, and view. Also, you have the bone names, and for some reason I have to check this out. This relocates, but it's not the end of the world. So if we go to the bottom of mesh, there's a thing called socket manager, and we want to create a new socket, and these are basically just custom nodes that you can assign stuff to. So like the jump boots have a specific socket on the legs of different characters that basically determine where it locates. So we're going to do flashbone, hit OK, and we're going to name this muzzle flash socket, and that's what the ammo script uses. And you can see that the location's a little off, so we can just manually bring this in and up and locate it where we want. And you can change the orientation stuff. You can see there's different options. I already straightened this out, so it shouldn't be as much of a problem. But now we have the socket set up. We want to save this package one final time, so let's go and save. And then what we need to do is we're going to generate the script that controls everything. So we want to make sure that we have the editor closed. And also, if you have any games open, do that as well.